Okay, the next step is going to be for us to create the core light, the light at the core. So I'm going to create sub create, and I'm going to call this core geo. I'm going to nest this inside the core slash geometry. And I'm going to bring it in here, merge core. So we'll create our core in a very simple fashion. Let's dive inside. Let's create a sphere. I'm going to switch this to polygon, increase the frequency to 10, reduce the scale to 0.08. This will give me the same size that we had here. The RNDR core, we pretty much had particles here, but we also had the core, the light, which was visible, and it had a size of 0.004. This is radius. This will be a diameter. So, okay, now going into adding some information in terms of color. I'm gonna use a color adjust attribute adjust color. Let's apply it. I'm gonna make sure I hide everything else, make it visible. And this is a really cool node that we have on Houdini 19. And let's switch this to noise. I don't want all of these. I pretty much just want two colors. This color, I'm going to choose the typical blue, and this can be the red. Let's kind of make sure that the blue is dominant. Let's adjust the size of this, 0.05, and I also want to make sure it's animated. So if you scrub, you'll see it's animated. I'll reduce the pulse duration to 0.5, so it's a bit faster. Okay, still a lot of red, so I'm still gonna bring it down. Yeah. Now that we have this, we'll be able to use the color on the shader as well. So this will be the geometry. If you don't want to if you don't want to be able to see the artifact, you can actually come here and you can create a prune, and you can choose what you want to deactivate if you don't want to see the artifact at this point. So let's say the primitives that we want is the geometry of the artifact, and we want to deactivate completely. And as you can see, we're not seeing it anymore. That's one way to do it. Now here, let's create a material library for the core. So this was nested inside core, and this is going to be nested inside the core as well. Let's dive inside. Principled shader. And we'll choose the base color, switch it to 1. The use point color for sure. Next, we will want to also have some emission on this use point color. And the emission intensity, let's go all the way to 20. I'm gonna disable this. I find that this, on some situations, this was kind of interfering with the way the emissive objects were being rendered. So I'm gonna disable it just in case. And this is gonna be core emissive. We are in Karma, but the shader hasn't been applied. Let's choose assign material. Go to core, we have our geometry, and we have our material. And now we should see this glowing. Okay. This look has to do with the fact that the colors that we selected are 100% saturated, and that's not a good idea. So let's go here, not here, but to the actual geometry, and let's make sure that this is not 100% saturated. Let's go to 0.98. It'll be better. And also this one, same thing, 0.98. And this should give us a different result. So no longer as saturated. You can actually pin this and go inside and adjust it even further. 0.95. Probably better. Seems still too saturated. 0.95. Go up. You can use the shortcut key here to switch between OpenGL and actual Karma render. Making sure that nothing is selected here. And yeah. So if we prune, we're looking at this. Let's go to a frame where the artifact is actually open. So something around here. Okay, so we will want to make sure that Karma is considering this object as being a light source as well. So let's put down render geometry settings. And here is where we can give that information to Karma. So treat as light, set to yes. Okay, we can also adjust these if we want with different proportions. This will tend, if you increase the intensity of this, it will tend to kind of, especially on the reflections, because it is a geometry that's generating, that's being used as a light source, it can generate more noise. So we can actually just bring up the diffuse, let's say all the way up to 10, and you definitely notice the difference without creating, or at least reducing the chances of having some fireflies going on the final render. I'm going to remove the prune. I'm not going to be using that anymore. Another thing that we can do is, because we are considering this as a light source, we can try to play with light samples, light sampling quality, set to 2 for this particular object. Okay. And what else? So now we pretty much have everything. It still seems a bit dark, so I'm going to add another light. This is different from the setup that we had on Redshift. We didn't have another light besides using a light at the core and the dome light, but I think it'll be an interesting addition to have. So I create another light. I'm going to call this LGT spot. Let me switch back to OpenGL. Go out, and this light is going to be type point. Shaping, let's switch to spotlight. The angle is a bit too wide. Let's go with 30, and let's transform it to in rotation -90. So it points down. Let's pull it up. Let's say 2 meters, probably too much. 1.5. Yeah, 2 meters sounds good. Okay, let's go back to the camera. Let's put on we have our lights already. Let's see if this gives us a better preview. And on the shaping, on the intensity, let's put this up to 10. Let's see how this looks. Karma. You can turn off the dome light. See the difference between having the spot, not having the spot. Let's actually have a look without the core. So it's not very strong, could be stronger. So let's increase this a bit more, 50. Seems better, maybe 40. I think this can be interesting. I'll keep it at 30. Let's try like this, and we'll see later if it makes sense to bring it down. I really want the main light to be the core. So the main contribution really needs to come from there. So I need to be careful with the intensity of this extra light so it doesn't compete too much with the core. But I think we have a nice balance, at least at this point. Okay, so we have our core, we have an extra light that we added, and we'll move on to the next lesson.